The Amazing Spider-Man number 68, written by Justine Ireland, Andrea Brocardo on pencils, Marcelo Menez on colors, VC's Joe Chiarmagna on letters. And I was going to tweet out the one page. I sent you the one page. I swear, the art has now decided that this does not mean anything. At one point, some of the art was still decent enough. Hoo-wee. Even this Andrea Brocardo, we had her last week, and this week is even worse. And it's like,
well, it's coming out weekly for some reason. I mean, this is
very weekly.
Why are we rushing this?
Not detailed.
No.
Here's the thing: if they could give us all the issues that remain today, I'd go for it. And then we're done.
Get it out of the way.
Then we have Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly.
Just send us the scripts. Don't even bother drawing it. Just send us the scripts so we can get out of this.
So I can use it to wipe my behind. Because here we go.
Yeah, but who is this? Justine Ireland on this one?
Yeah, it's Justine Ireland. But at this point, I couldn't even blame Joe Kelly, who I still think had the basic idea of this.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was Nick Lowe and they just joined in, whatever the case may be. But at this point, you have gotten so far removed from the contest and all this that they don't bother anymore. And then to have it at the end, I mean, it would be as if you had the Final Four. Say we're college basketball, the Final Four. You go through the whole tournament, March Madness. You get to the finals game, and then they decide we're now playing baseball. Mm-hmm. That's what this seems like. You have a tournament set up, and then suddenly everything is changed to now be, okay, tournament doesn't matter, now blight, which everything is ill-defined. Nothing matters.
Do you even know what round you're in? Even if we were playing basketball, what round is this?
It's the
Are we in the finals, semifinals?
280th. I don't know.
Are we back to the beginning?
This is what happens now with these things. I mean, if you are a DC reader or fan and you happen to have the unfortunate deal of reading Teenie Howard's Catwoman, when she had the 9 lives, I kept saying each week or each month when we got it, how many lives do you think there's left? Nobody could tell me because you didn't know, because it's so generic that the tournament in these things are usually just set up as just a backdrop so they can do their nonsense. And that's what happened. We don't know what round. We don't even know how many rounds there are. There was never a point. Now, we assumed that with the idea of, and I'll get to this too, the 8 deaths of Spider-Man, you would assume there were 8 rounds, something like that. But now, even with the reads being given out willy-nilly, who knows even if that's even a good title? I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you anymore, because we start out, and if you haven't been reading, well, first off, congratulations. You're smarter than us. But you end up having the X-Men have to jump in and end up fighting the Scion of Sidorak because, lo and behold, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, has given up. Now, the big play was he ended up seeing that he became a nihilist. And somebody even mentioned on the YouTube deal that they like that. But Peter had decided he had seen the future and everybody dies. Lo and behold, Aunt May, she's not immortal. I mean, you can have one more day, but you can't have one more day after day after day. Eventually, she's going to die. She looks like she's 500. So, she had a good life. But he ends up saying, well, I've seen everybody die, so it doesn't matter. Why should I save them? But he wasn't saying that if I back off from here, I can't save them eventually. What he was saying is everybody dies anyway, so I don't care if they die now. This tournament is based on the idea that if you lose, seemingly because it's not well defined, that the world becomes a Sidorak hellhole. And in my mind, the people who live, they're going to be the ones who are really upset because they're going to have to deal with it. But if you lose this tournament, the whole play is everybody's dead. Immediately, they're dead. Yeah. So Peter was saying before this issue that, yeah, I saw them die anyway. So what does it matter if they die now? I can't save them then. So why bother now? Because lo and behold, we all die. So, whatever. Until this issue, where then all of a sudden it becomes the stupidest thing I've ever read in my life until we get to the next book. But you end up where all this going on, Peter is there and you have this Syra, whatever you say, we'll say Kyra. She's there crying. Peter ends up like the dialogue in this where he's like, I don't know what she's crying about, but it must be pretty bad. Who-wee? And then he's like, yeah, what's up? And she's like, yeah, nothing. I'm just upset for you, not me. Look. And they go out, and lo and behold, Randy, Aunt May, Shay, and Rando, I think Roberto, his name is, dead. They're dead
in the streets.
Dead. So right there is like, you're not going to be able to, in my mind, to get past this idea that Peter sat it out and everybody he loves seems to be dead.
Good job, X-Men. You did a really good job protecting him.
And the best thing is, from last issue to this, it really doesn't make a lot of sense there. Also, it was because Aunt May, remember we were yelling, Aunt May kept saying, everybody in feast, but then 2 pages later, everybody, she took too long.
Yep.
She's too old. Maybe she broke her hip. Also, I just don't love the idea of seeing, them just lying there dead.
I mean, hey, you resurrect him. She's still dead in the streets. I mean,
yeah. And so at this point, in my mind, like the idea that we have been saying all along, we knew eventually Peter would get back into the game and do the thing, but the damage is done. He sat it out. When he was told this would happen, he said it didn't matter because even if they die, they're just going to die anyway. I can't stop that. Woe is me, whatever. Mm-hmm. Until he sees them and says, but wait a minute, I thought that they were supposed to die later. I'm like, are you that dumb? And I'm not just talking to Peter. I'm talking about everybody involved in the story. Are they that dumb that we don't actually, that we're going to go for this? The idea that if he loses, which he should have, I mean, the idea that what's going on in this? He end up being the champion and says, I give up. It should be over. The whole world should be a Sidorak hellhole.
Yep.
And it's not. But Peter's like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. I saw their deaths. Yeah, but after that, you gave up and said you didn't care. So then he's like, oh, no. And then just right after, and he's like trying to grab like Aunt May's dead body. and the art is just not good. Actually, it might be a decent thing to not have great art here. Remember when we had that first issue and you had that horrific Peter getting resurrected?
Yes.
Like, how far are we from that?
It seems like a year.
Yeah. So you end up where Peter says, can we use the reeds? Now, in that, the funny play here is that because there's 4 reeds left, you kind of need 4 people because you want to get Peter where he has none left. But they couldn't figure out who else they could have here because if you end up having, I guess you could have had Felicia.
Yeah, so they just throw Ricardo into the mix. So they
throw this Ricardo guy in here who, as he wakes up, says, Miss Parker, so you know that May's banging him because she's not even using the missus there as a widow. But you end up where it's like, oh my God, hey, you're fine, get up. And also Peter also was able to convince Coulson, which seemed weird because I don't think he's that, but hey, can you make it so they don't remember dying? So you're just making up shit is what you're doing to just then have Peter say, that's it, I'm in the game. You know what that means? That means we just wasted 10 issues, it seems. This doesn't make it better. This doesn't make you, this is what we said, when you push a person down to get to then bring them up to status quo level 0, that you didn't do anything. You artificially made him sit out to get to what he should have been.
The fake death of Aunt May to bring him back in. It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It'd be funny if they only had 3 reads and he brought back Ricardo instead of Aunt May.
I think it'd be funny if, like, issues down the line, she's not right, She came back.
Like, none of them are.
Yeah, they're just, and you can't fix it. It's just the end of Aunt May,
Yeah, it's done. So in that, the X-Men are still fighting, and now they're fighting devil dogs. Because,
which just keep coming out of nowhere. They're like unstoppable.
And then more come, and then more come, and all this going on. It's just ridiculous. You can't even keep track of what's going on. Now, Kalex is the big bad because he has the blight. He's there yelling and screaming. He grabs, Cyclops by the neck, throws him, bashes Juggernaut away. All this going on. To then have him just, when Spider-Man joins up, he's like, okay, I'm going to get out of here. And he disappears, makes more devil dogs. And then when they leave, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we're told by Kyra that, oh, Spidey, me and you are phased out of existence at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody now has the blight. And
they're all attacking each other.
Except Juggernaut, because he's the presence of Sidorak on Earth. So they're all attacking Juggernaut, but he could take it. Now, if you think that I ended up skipping things and I'm explaining it in a convoluted way, like, oh, why isn't he explaining this? It's not explained. This just happens. You go from one panel to the next, and suddenly Kyra goes, oh, we're out of existence at the moment. Everybody has the plate. You see everybody around town. Yeah, everybody around. So basically, in my mind, Aunt May, Shay, Randy, and Ricardo, they now have the blight, and they're
ripping each other's throats out.
What should have been the play here in my mind, it would have been better, is the idea that some of the X-Men died, right? And then you end up where Peter still feels bad, gives them, but because they died, they missed out with the blight, and then you'd have somebody fighting, but that's not the deal. You end up having, I mean, this poor guy, him and his wife are like fighting, she's throwing a teapot at him. Like, what do you care?
This other guy's going to fight his dog, it looks like.
Yeah, he's fighting his dog. So you have Juggernaut fighting and this whole play of, oh, because of this, we have to go back and see Daddy. We have to go to the whole realm, and off they go to really do nothing. They go, and all the brothers and sisters of Kyra, they're dead. So I guess the tournament's over. Right? Now we're dealing with the blight, so you don't need the tournament, I guess, whatever. And then Spuddy's like, I'm really sorry. Everything we saw with them, where they were fighting tooth and nail. So we made fun of Sidorak, who was just like sitting on his toilet.
He's still sitting there doing nothing.
He's just sitting there, and they're like yelling at him, why aren't you doing anything? He's not doing anything about not doing anything. And then Peter yells at him. A portal opens. A crazy entity is coming in.
What is that thing?
I guess it's the blight.
Blight monster?
Blight, but I think it might be Calyx transformed into that coming in, because suddenly then he's there and he's got Peter by the back of the neck, which is exactly what he did to Cyclops pretty much, and then snaps Peter's neck and kills him and throws him on the ground. And I laughed at the end. I was like, really? Like, you really think after all this bullshit that I'm going to think anything that they write means anything, right? I wish that what this meant, Peter is dead. That means the whole lot of them get fired. Yeah, Nick Lowe, hit the skids, everybody, and then bring in somebody else new to do this stuff.
Honestly, if you told me Peter Parker's dead and we don't see him again for 20 years, I would almost be happy. Just and a new Spider-Man happened in Spider-Man #1, I'd be cool with it.
Wouldn't you think to yourself, at least at this point, maybe something good could come next?
Yeah, because this system's broken, man.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Like, this is where, DC gets criticized a lot, even when they don't actually reboot, but they get criticized for rebooting a lot. And people, oh, no, the Marvel's great. They don't reboot. They keep going. But do you want to keep going? Do you want to keep with this stuff? I mean, seriously. Now, if we saw that all of a sudden the mask gets taken off and it was actually Paul, then that is great. But I even thought at one point, was there a weird switcheroo? But what does it matter? I mean, what's going to happen will probably end up being Ricardo. Ricardo will be like, I don't deserve this life. Or it's going to be Coulson who's going to do something. He even said at one point, I'm kind of new, and we know he is. I have a feeling he's going to risk it all and bring back Peter.
On the cover for the next issue, it's like Doom swoops in and does something. So,
and isn't that great that Doom finally shows up?
But we got to go through a Dot Deaths issue first.
Yeah. And the Dot Deaths issue seems to just be this issue. Right? And then,
from the perspective of the X-Men, maybe.
Doom will come in, and then they'll try to make Doom look like a hero by doing some spell, or say he'll do a time travel spell or some nonsense. Right? It's infuriating how bad it is, but it's kind of funny. And I can't say that I don't expect it, because if I said I didn't expect it, it would be ridiculous, because I expect it. I expect this to be bad, but not this bad, not actually getting worse. At some point in these stories, you usually get to the bottom. In the last 4 issues, we end up saying, well, it sucked from the beginning, but at least they righted the ship a little, or when this just keeps getting worse. It really gets worse every issue, and that's almost impossible. But it's possible because it's happening. But what would you give it?
I don't remember what we gave the issue last week.
We gave last like 3s.
Yeah, I'd go with that again. Why not? It's no different. It's just as infuriating.
I'm going lower. The idea that they claim that Peter's an idiot, and I'm going a 2.
Yeah, and Nick Lowe's saying, "What are we gonna get? How are we gonna get out of this pickle?" It's like, dude, shut up.
Shove that pickle somewhere. I'm telling you, I've never witnessed something as far as I've been doing comics where a guy is so awful and just inept and yet gloats about it. Like he's just there with the lowdown and talking about how, oh man, can you imagine what just happened? I'm like, no, I couldn't because I have a brain. I'm telling you, it's that bad. It's so upsetting. And it's upsetting because, again, this is a book that we'll always end up doing. A lot of these others will just drop, but it's Spider-Man. So we try to keep with it.